the rules for 5 for 5. Here's what we've done. I've selected 3 random topics. John has not seen the topics. And John has selected today 2 topics to make out our 5. We're going to throw them back and forth. I'm going to open up with the first topic. We're going to discuss that for exactly 5 minutes. And then he's going to throw out the second topic. Again, this is totally on the blind. We don't know I don't know what you've written. No. It kind of scares me to think what you might have written. Hey everybody, welcome back to The Pursuit. I'm Jeff Hutchin with John Saborov, and we are going live on Facebook as we're going to be throwing this out on the YouTube channel here pretty soon after we get a chance to add a little bit of edit to it, but we're live. So you're going to see unedited version of The Pursuit right now if you're watching us on Facebook.
If there's ever going to be an unedited version, it's going to be this one because of the format. That
we're doing something different. We're calling it 5 for 5.
5 for 5.
So here's what we've done. Here's the rules we've established. Well, let me stop.
All right.
Before we get to the rules,
let's talk about.
We got to talk about who's paying for this deal.
Absolutely.
And what am I thinking?
Our sponsor, Realty One Premier Group.
That's right.
Group Premier. And I did it again. I always want to switch those two, but it's Realty One Premier Group.
Okay.
And they are one of the fastest growing real estate brands in the world.
They're killing it.
In fact, top 1% of agent volume or whatever, them. Did you know that? Across the industry.
That's cool.
And their local team, although they're international and national for sure, their local team run by Gary and Bob and those guys, man, they've got a great team over there, and they will take care of your needs, whether it's sitting down in a setting like this and saying, okay, what is it that you're looking for? What are your goals? Not just, okay, let's pull up Zillow together. No. Or better yet, you know what? Just shoot me a text when you find the houses that you want to see, right? And I'll go set those things up, right? You want to sit down with somebody who's going to understand your goals and say, you know what? I've got the perfect place for you. And so that's what they do. They take the time. They're family oriented, and they are top notch. So work with a knowledgeable agent that you can trust with one of the most important purchases that you will ever make. And you can find them at realty1grouppremier.com. So thanks to Gary and the team over there.
You bet. All right. Now, the rules for 5 for 5. Here's what we've done. I've selected 3 random topics. John has not seen the topics. And John has selected today 2 topics to make out our 5. We're going to throw them back and forth. I'm going to open up with the first topic. We're going to discuss that for exactly 5 minutes, and then he's going to throw out the second topic. Again, this is totally on the blind. We don't know I don't know what you've written. No. It kind of scares me to think what you might have written. But we're going to go there. We're going to take a shot, and we're doing it live. That's what's even crazier.
It's even wilder. I did ask you before if we were allowed to phone a friend, and if that's part of the rules. So I think for today that we won't do that.
But we'll interject that at some point.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of cool.
We may need to do that. That'd be fun.
That'd be fun. And we had our arbitrator, Mark Massey, who's in the office here with us, next door to our studio. We said, hey, here's our 5 topics. We didn't look at it and said, make sure we didn't duplicate, so we're not duplicating topics. But you ready?
Well, first of all, you did try to cheat off of my paper. You tried to look at these.
That's not true. But we're going to dive in for 5 minutes. Here is our first topic. And I'm going to start fairly easy on you. Okay? If you were president of the United States, and I could rewind the clock back to January of 2020, pre-COVID, knowing what you know now, you are the POTUS. What would you do differently in response to the COVID pandemic? 5 minutes.
Oh, is this a debate?
We're just going to talk back and forth. It's fine.
5 minutes? Are you like Chris Walters?
Are you going to answer the question, or are you dodging the question?
I am trying to dodge the question because I think part of it is, right, and maybe this is the part where you've loaded the question a little bit, is we have the benefit of knowing what we know now.
You bet.
And I'm not sure that we know a heck of a lot more, though, having said that, right? And so I think about naturally what he's done to sort of invite criticism to this point. And I think there's 2 things that occur to me off the top of my head. One, he can do something about, one, he can't, right? And the first one is that to maybe have been a little more aggressive and purposeful and communicative, and that actually addresses one of the second topics, with regard to what he's, what he is, or I guess me now, because you've given me the power to do that.
That's
I am
right.
the president, right? But what I would have done to say, hey, we're going to be aggressive, and to his credit, he did lock down travel pretty early on.
Okay, I want to stop you.
Okay.
I'm not asking you to recap what President Trump did.
What I would have done
I'm
is be more
asking you to
aggressive.
recap. So what does that mean? What does that mean, be more aggressive?
I would have shut everything down a little bit
Just
sooner.
like he did. So that was the same. Or you're saying you would have done it sooner?
I think I would have done it sooner. But here's the thing. I think where he's gotten in the most heat, and where I would have hopefully been better, is around being communicative with regard to why we're doing what we're doing, right? I just feel like he's left such a void, and some people call it the leadership void. I think it's the communication void about why we're doing things. Talk about, okay, so there is only a certain amount of things that I can do without getting the governors on board, right? We're not going to overextend federal power to lock the country down. We're going to work with governors, and here's how we're going to do it, right? And so I think he missed a major opportunity, and I think maybe thinking back, because I'm a little more diplomatic, I would hope, but I think that's one of the gifts that I have, is to be able to bring two people to the table that don't necessarily agree.
Okay.
I think there would have been a great opportunity that was missed to sort of have a bipartisan approach, not all this posturing and all that crap, to figuring out what we're going to do as a country.
So let me push back a little bit, because one of the things that the current president is saying is that he is not going to shut down the country again, period. What that tells me, and he said we shut down the country because we didn't know much. And we had to figure out what the heck we were dealing with. Is this a disease that was going to kill a third of every person that got it? Or is it something different than that, right? And so he said, I won't shut the country down again based on what we know now about the COVID virus. So
Fair.
I'm going to push back and say, why would you shut the country down then if what they're saying now is they wouldn't?
Well,
so again,
I think,
if you knew, let me say it another way. If you knew now, and we've seen the survival rates for people that get it, right? And over 200,000 people died. And we're not going to overlook that, because that's a major deal. But knowing that, you're saying you would still shut everything down?
Yeah, I think I would have, only because I think that of those 200,000 people, right? And what that would have done is to sort of contain it a little better, right? Then let it kind of go wildfire into these high population areas.
The hard thing about this is an interesting question, I think, because the hard thing about this whole thing is we're never really going to know how well this administration did with this virus, right? Because you can always second guess. So if we could rewind the clock and manipulate a few things and go, okay, only 50,000 people died because these 2 or 3 things could have been done differently, or is because of what they did, the actual death rate could have been in the millions. We'll never know.
There's a lot of levers that could have been pulled and that are being pulled right now. And to your point, we don't have precedent. We don't have something to go back to to compare this to get a baseline to say, well, we contained it a little bit better than Spanish flu. And we can't compare it to that, right? There's too many. There's a different time, different age, different.
Okay, our time's up. We got to go to the second topic. Second topic.
Okay.
I am the buzzer.
Second topic is this. Are we going to rotate too?
Yeah.
Okay.
You didn't listen to the instruction, but go ahead.
Yeah. Is that a surprise?
I'm used to it. Go ahead.
What is the greatest lie that holds us back from living a life of significance? What is the trap?
It's simple. I think the greatest lie is our past defines our future. I think what the enemy does, and he's really good at it, is he knows that when we come to know Jesus as Savior, and that's locked and loaded, our salvation is determined, and we're walking in faithfulness, we're walking in righteousness, we're pursuing Jesus till the end of our time. He knows that the only other tool he has in his belt is, I got to keep John from walking in sonship. I got to keep him from walking in the power and the authority that the Holy Spirit has now, that it resides within him. And if I can force him to continue to focus in on his past, it will keep him from living in the present. And so the biggest lie is we believe that our past defines our future. What are your thoughts?
That's pretty good, Jeff Hutchin. I would
almost as though I might have seen your question beforehand.
Oh, wow.
No, I didn't.
He did. I told you he did it.
No, seriously, what do
so-
you think? What's the biggest lie?
I mean, you and I share this passion around the lie of the false self. That I call it the imposter. I've heard other people call it the imposter. I didn't make that word up, but the imposter that taps us on the shoulder, and it's a lie. The biggest lie is that we're still that person.
Mm.
And why is it such a powerful lie? Because we still, if we allow it to, we still see flavors of it in our life. You know what I mean? It still shows up. And if something still shows up, well, you must still be that, right? And so it's really easy, especially us living in the American performance mindset, right? And I think that we Americans we're so much more prone to this than maybe other cultures. I don't know that, but it feels like that's true. That it's really easy to translate that performance mindset that says, I've got to do well enough to get the next raise, right? I got to do well enough to please my dad, right? If you're a kid, on the football field or what have you, I've got to do well enough to make, my spouse proud. I've got to, right? We bring that in and we project that unfairly on God.
Mm. I think about my own kids, and, I think about there's nothing they can do to make me love them more, right? There's certainly times where I'm disappointed, right, in choices that they make. And as their father, when they were younger, there were consequences associated with those choices, right? That's part of the discipline process that any father goes through. Mm-hmm. But we discipline why? Because we want to be mean? No, we discipline because we love.
Right.
And we're trying to correct in love towards a behavior that's more honorable at the end of the day. But the problem is we take that mindset that you're describing and we say, okay, then the opposite must be true then. Yeah. The more I do things well and the more things I do that are favorable in the eyes of the Father, he's going to love me more. And that's another huge lie.
That is a lie.
Absolutely.
And that's why I feel like, he's wrapped up the secrets of heaven in the responsibility and privilege we get to be parents. He really, because we have to unload all of our baggage when we're parenting our son or our daughter, right? You just can't you could be performance oriented at work, but when you come back and your daughter asks you a question about homework or whatever, you're dad, man. The performance is out the window. And for some reason we have a hard time translating that to our relationship with our Heavenly Father. Let me ask you this. Have you ever, in the hundreds of times that your children have disobeyed you, have you ever gone to them and said, you know what? Give me my last name back. You're done.
Never.
And yet what do we worry about?
It's unimaginable. Yeah.
What do we worry about with God?
Losing that.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. That's right. It's good, man. All right. It's good. Let's move on to the next topic. You ready for this one? Right now in the news, Amy Coney Barrett, right now as we speak, is being interrogated, right, by the Senate, and they're asking her questions on her position on a lot of different things. And we're not going to get into the packing the court. Do you think they should place a Supreme Court justice on the court during an election year? Blah, blah, everything that's going on. That's been beaten to death.
Yeah.
But where I want to head with this next question is the role of faith, specifically in a Supreme Court justice. What role should faith play in the life of a Supreme Court justice whose job is to interpret the law, not to interject your own position, not to interject your own political opinion or personal feeling or moral standard that you might hold? What role does faith play in the role of a Supreme Court justice?
My goodness. The first place I go to is, I want to say I think it's Genesis, that says that the judges established the law of righteousness in the land, established the righteousness of the land. And so I mention that because from the time that this country was founded, right, and we can argue about, how it was founded and all the muck and mire around that, right, with regard to how the Native Americans were treated, right? So I'm not saying that when I say that this country was founded on Christian principles, that everything about it was as clean, neat, and pretty and right.
Sure.
All right. What happened with the slave trade was unimaginably bad, right? But having said all of that, the foundation of our government is at least based in Christian principle. And so there is alignment between Christian principle and the foundation of our country in terms of the law of the land, right? That the Ten Commandments are front and center.
Mm-hmm.
And so where there is, opportunity for, when those things become challenged, I think it's the responsibility of the judges to interpret, the Constitution through that lens, and to affirm, even by the way, if they're not Christian, to say this is what the intention was by our founding fathers. This is how it's laid out in the Constitution. To say this is wrong and this is right, and we want to be on this side.
Yeah,
right?
I don't disagree with you. I was thinking about it this morning as I was listening to the radio, and they were talking about these confirmation hearings that are taking place right now, and the questioning that she's facing,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously faith being one of the issues that's being discussed, rightly or wrongly, right? And as I thought about trying to put myself in her position, I don't know that I could be a Supreme Court justice. Because honestly, I don't think I have the ability to separate my spiritual view, my biblical worldview.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I have the ability to separate the two. And that's what they desire. They desire constitutionalists,
Mm-hmm.
right, in the Supreme Court. Well, do I believe in the Constitution? Yes. Do I believe in the Bible over the Constitution? Absolutely. And so for that reason, I don't know that I could do it. I don't know that I could allow myself to be in that role. And I don't know how they can ask someone, honestly, and I don't know how anybody can honestly answer the question, can you interpret the law without the filter of your own worldview? Man, I don't know that any man or woman can raise to that standard.
What about just the scrutiny that just the exercise and scrutiny that she's going under, regardless of kind of the positions of those that are asking the questions? But can you imagine having your life being essentially tried in front of the world? Every decision you made, right?
I've always said that's why I think some of the best people in our culture, in our country, don't run for political office. Right? Is because they don't want to go through the scrutiny that is required. And, I've yet to meet a good man that doesn't have some baggage. And who wants that pulled out? Who wants that drug out in front of the world to analyze? And that's sadly what she's facing right now, and others that choose to go into public office.
Yeah,
like
there's a lens that people look through that sort of says, hey, you're pretending to be and it's almost back to your first question. You're pretending to be this person that's been justified and right with God and all of that. But remember this thing that you did. And the implication is, so you're not that person, you're guilty.
Yeah.
As opposed to the implication that actually that failure, while I acknowledge it as part of my story, Revelation 3, overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of my testimony, actually produced who you see today.
Right.
That misstep, that failure actually enabled me to learn a lesson that I otherwise wouldn't have been able to learn, right? And so you're right. It's a hard thing to be, and clearly the enemy is doing that day and night, right?
That's right. The accuser of the brethren.
Prosecuting.
That's right.
Accusing day and night.
Let's move on. Topic 4.
Okay. All right. I'm going to lighten it up a little bit. What is the biggest lesson that you personally have learned from the football field as it relates to your walk with God?
The biggest lesson I've learned from the football field, for those of you that don't know, John and I are both college football officials.
And as part of that, I'll let you think while I explain this. As part of that, we go through, you talk about being tried in front of the world. I mean, every play is judged.
Yep.
And you're
the scrutiny, to your point, the scrutiny that we go under is quite incredible. The microscope, especially now with all the high definition televisions and 8 different camera angles on a play. And it's amazing the level of scrutiny we go under. I would say this. I would say the importance of integrity. People often ask us, who's your favorite team? Who do you root for? And we get scrutinized, right? Mm-hmm. Oftentimes we'll hear players on the sideline or coaches on the sideline, even sometimes making comments about, these guys are against us, and obviously we're the road team, I laugh when I hear those kind of comments, right? Because when live bullets are flying and we're out there going at it and we're doing our job, we are so hyper focused. All I see is a team that has white jerseys on and a team that has blue jerseys on. I'm not thinking this team versus that team. I'm really not. And I know you don't either. It's just we are so hyper focused on doing our job. But really, the point of just being filled with integrity, and it's filled with honesty, is filled with just calling what we see and being confident enough to stick with it and going with it. There's a lot of confidence that comes from the football field that's applied to the faith journey. But for me, I would just, the one word I think of is integrity. What do you think? What are your thoughts?
I think from my perspective, I think it's the ability to acknowledge a mistake and to actually say, yeah, I think I did mess that up. Or sometimes the lessons are, I got that right, but for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
I need to go back and fix something, right? Yeah. And so for me in my life, it's been a lesson in
humility
for sure, objectivity for sure, inviting people into the space where I trust them with my stuff to be able to say, what do you think about this? Dude, you're 100% wrong on that. You need to go fix that, right? To be able to take that and to say, he's right, not to defend. What, you know why I did that? You know what happened to me before, right? Yeah. It's for me, it was, again, you said it well, a lesson in humility continues to be. And so, yeah, it's I think a pretty easy thing to take into our lives.
You don't want to hit on this for the last 2 minutes on this particular topic, and I'm going to put you on the spot, see if you're willing to talk about. Speaking of integrity, speaking of humility, you had an issue surface over the last 24 hours that you had to admit something, and you felt compelled to make it right. Do you want to tell everybody about what happened?
Hey, listen, you're looking for a perfect person. This is not the person to model yourself after, but we're all trying to imitate the perfect one who lives within us. But I'll be honest with you, there are moments where I'm an emotional guy, and it's, I think that's an aspect of how God made me. You know what I mean? When the Holy Spirit's near and that I'll be the first to cry on these episodes when we talk. It's hard for me to contain myself, but and I say that unashamedly. But I went to to go get an oil change yesterday, and showed up and asked oil change, and they took care of a flat tire as well, and just great. I'm not going to name the shop that I went to, but went in there, and there was nothing other than a, hey, change oil soon thing flashing, right? And I knew it was about that time. And so I took it in there, and they give it back to me an hour later, and hey, we fixed the valve stem and did that for free. Oh, great. You guys are awesome. Thank you. And drive back here to the studio, and all the way here, my check engine light was on. Not the change oil soon light, but the yellow
different light.
Yeah. And so I thought, well, I'm going to take it back there and to see what's going on. Maybe they didn't fill it all the way up with oil or anything, right? So something like that. So I went back and talked to the manager and said, hey, this check engine light is on. It wasn't on before I brought it here, and maybe you guys didn't fill it all the way up with oil or whatever. Well, the tech that had worked on that happened to walk in and heard this whole thing. And so we got into without going through the details of it, I didn't cuss, and I didn't threaten the dude or anything like that. But
you didn't put him in a darce choke?
I didn't put him in a but there was a he said, no, it was on. And I'm like, I'm not trying to get away with anything here. That was not on. If you're, so we went through this whole deal, right? And finally I just got frustrated. I said, you know what? I'm out. Forget it. I'm done. I'm done with you guys, done with the shop, whatever. And stormed out. Felt
good about yourself, didn't you?
Felt good, felt justified. I had the right to, by God.
Yeah.
Right? The customer's always right, whatever, right? And so it bothered me the rest of the day. Bothered me all night. I didn't sleep. I woke up at 3 a.m. thinking about it.
Yeah.
And I knew what I had to do. And God
you know what that was?
Holy Spirit.
No, you know what it was?
What?
Your check engine light was on.
That's good. That's an episode right there.
Your check engine light was on, and you're like, uh-oh.
Y'all hear that? That was good. You're right about that. So my check engine light was on. That's a great way to say it. And I showed up here, as you know, this morning. We're getting ready to interview Sonia Bruner. I said, man, I got to go take care of something before I do anything. I'm not taking this into my day. I thought about Jesus, I think it was Jesus who said, if you're going to make an offering to the Lord, no, it wasn't Jesus, it was Old Testament, I think, but you better check your heart and ask forgiveness. Don't you bring in unforgiveness.
Yeah. Leave your offering at the altar.
Boom.
And go make it right with your neighbor.
Man,
and then come back and I'll receive your offering.
That's it. And so, and this is not hey, look at what I did. Okay. It was more like, you know what, I don't care what, talk about humility. I don't care what it means to be right with God. I've been outside of being right with God for so many years of my life that it is the most important thing in life to be right with God. So I went down there, talked to the manager, said, I'd like to talk to him. And he said, yeah, he's right out there. Went out there and I said, hey, I didn't try to explain it. Just said, you know what? I was wrong. I was wrong yesterday. And for implying that you didn't, that the check engine light was not on. Maybe it was. Maybe it's fired up. It was right there, but it wasn't the point. I assumed the worst of that guy. And I was thinking, what if he was on the edge of getting fired? Because he's gotten complaints about something. Right. And the reason he was defensive was because it was right there in front of his manager. Who am I?
Right.
I can get somebody to work on my Jeep. It's fine. So I asked him to forgive me, and which he did. And I gave him a little gift card for lunch.
That's awesome.
And you know what?
How's your check engine light?
It's still on, but my internal one.
No, I'm talking about your internal.
Yeah,
one,
that's
the one that matters.
That's the one that matters.
Right.
It is off, and I told him this. Let's wrap with this. I said, you know what? There's enough anger right now in this world. It's a check engine light. We're good. Let's be the solution.
It's good. All right, we went a little bit over on that 5 minutes. That's okay.
I see 2 minutes left.
We're going to close with another 5-minute question. It's the last one. Okay.
I thought that was...
No, that's 4. You ask the last question. I get to ask the 5th question. You don't listen to the rules of the game.
You just asked me the 5th question.
No, I did not.
Okay, it's going to be a 2-minute answer.
What was your last question you asked?
Greatest lesson from the football field.
Thank you. You just asked that.
But you asked me about...
No, I have the last question right here.
See what I have?
This is it.
We're like, what does Mark Massey say? Y'all are like 2 85-year-old women.
Yes.
Just yapping.
All right, here it is. You ready?
Yes.
This is a little bit heavier.
Okay.
So, if you've been watching, I don't know, have you watched the NBA Finals?
Did not.
They're done, right?
Yes, they are. I think the Lakers won.
The Lakers won it?
Like last night.
That shows you how much I've watched. So, I have not watched it either. I don't know if you've been watching the news, but they're talking about the NBA championship. The World Championship ratings were down 70%.
Mm-hmm.
My question to you is,
Hutch.
What role does the social justice stance that the NBA has made, specifically in their alignment with Black Lives Matter, in your opinion, what connection does that have to the ratings drop in the NBA? Not just in the championship series, but the regular season.
I think it's significant. I think that as significant as their alignment to that organization. And I always, I like how somebody put it to me in my heart, and this is just me, okay? Not speaking for anyone, but to me, there's a difference between the capital Black Lives Matter and lowercase Black Lives Matter. So I'll just put that aside. You know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Okay. The organization and sort of the
what the phrase implies.
There you go. And so I think that it has a lot to do with A, their alliance, B, though, people are getting things muddled in their minds between Democrats, Republicans, conservative, liberal, Antifa, right? I mean, everything is kind of jumbled, and we're all sitting at home for the most part, not quarantined necessarily, but still restricted. And people are feeling very frustrated. I know you sense it, and you hear it all the time. And they're looking for something to lash out at. And so if I can lash out at what I don't believe in by not watching that thing, not watching NBA Finals, right? That's what I'm going to do, because I feel so suppressed from the standpoint of, we all have cabin fever emotionally to a certain degree. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We're going crazy. So, and we're like, man, this is frustrating. I don't know what to do. But you know what? I'm not going to watch that NBA Finals. I'm not going to, whatever, right? You fill in the blank. So I think the NBA Finals are just one aspect where that's playing out in life right now. And people are upset and looking for, they may not be physically in the streets, burning things and that sort of thing, or picketing or what have you on either side. But from their living room, maybe they're doing the same thing through these other mechanisms. What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's absolutely a direct connection, and I think professional sports as a whole has their hands full with this issue. And I know Adam Silver, he's a commissioner of the NBA, Silver, whatever his name is. He's saying that they're going to revisit all of the social justice alignments that they've made as a league and trying to determine what's the role of the league in politics and these social issues, and do we need to keep them separate? Do they need to be integrated? So I think the commissioners of all the respective leagues, quite honestly, have some big decisions to make in the future on how they're going to do this. And a lot of it has to do with exactly what you're talking about, the lines between, and I like how you put it, the lowercase Black Lives Matter and the uppercase Black Lives Matter is complicated. And there's a lot of clarity needs to occur in those areas, because I've yet to meet a person, and I would think 99.9% of the population of the United States of America would agree with the phrase Black Lives Matter. I think where things fall apart quickly is when you begin to look at the platform for which the organization stands for. Now you begin to draw some pretty strong political lines, and our professional sports leagues, and by the way, corporations, they got some tough decisions to make in terms of how they're going to move forward as it relates to social justice causes.
Yeah.
And
what do you think about the whole idea that, hey, when we actually tune in to watch a game, football, hockey, basketball, what have you, that we're actually looking for a break from we want just an oasis for a second. That's right?
A great point, John. I think about why I watch TV, which is rarely, and you know that.
Yeah.
And the reason why I do it, it's usually deadhead time.
Yeah.
I usually don't want to be overwhelmed with things I got to think too much about.
Right.
And sports is one of those where I just want to click it on and just deadhead it and just relax and watch and be entertained. And it's gone, in my mind, it's gone a little bit beyond that. And I think that's got a lot of people frustrated.
And do you think that an outspoken athlete on one side or the other that comes out and makes a statement, whether it's a visual statement, something on a helmet or taking a knee, or in a post-game press conference or what have you, is going to change anyone's mind about where they stand related to any of these
here's my
topics?
take. Those athletes absolutely have a right to speak their mind. They have the freedom of speech just like you and I have.
Absolutely.
However, they need to realize that the words they speak have consequences. As long as everybody understands that whatever position you're going to choose to take, and I don't care if it's about politics or any other social issue, quite honestly, if they want to share their thought on it, they have the right to do it. We're sticking the cameras in their faces. We're sticking the microphones in their faces. So clearly people want to hear, but they just need to realize that's fine. But whatever you speak, there's a consequence. It can be really positive, but it also can be very detrimental. And I think what the NBA and the NFL, and for the most part, those two leagues are really feeling it, is the consequence has been negative as it relates to ratings. So that's what I'll say.
You know what? And to wrap today, I mean, you and I feel that same, to a certain degree, responsibility and understanding that our words carry now consequences. To have a platform like this, and granted, we're not, at the level of the audience of a LeBron James or something, right? But we do have a responsibility. And I think that you and I go into this thing open-handed to say, God, there is no wavering on the things that we believe in.
That's right.
That are you can't even argue them from Scripture. If you're aligned with Scripture, that's the truth. Okay. But with regard to everything else, man, let's talk about it. Maybe I'm wrong, right? Maybe it's the same lesson from the football field, right?
That's right.
Maybe I'm wrong. Show me the error of my ways, God, because the last thing I want to do is displease the Father.
You know what we need?
What's that?
We need a buzzer.
We do need a buzzer.
Because we went a lot longer than 5 minutes on those last couple. But it was fun. Did you like this?
I enjoyed it.
It was fun. Okay, we'll do this
Even though
again.
you cheated.
We'll do this again.
I think we should phone a friend. We should be able to phone a friend.
Phone a friend next time.
Get a contributor.
That's
phone
fine.
A contributor.
That's fine. Hey, everybody, thank you for joining us again on The Pursuit. And make sure you check us out on thepursuitonline.com. We've got some amazing contributors out there. Corey Bell dropped a new video contribution that's going to be falling out here in the next couple of days. So make sure you check that out. And we've got a blog post coming up later this week from Lindsay Fontenot. She's going to be talking, I believe, I don't think I'm teasing this too early, but I believe she's going to be talking about this issue called Social Dilemma. It's the new what's it called? Documentary out on Netflix.
Yeah.
Netflix.
Maybe it's Netflix.
For some people, it's Netflix based on what's been going on lately. But make sure you check that out.
That's going to be a great teaser for us. As we need to read that blog before we have the conversation next week, because you and I are going to do an episode on that as well.
So we're going to be talking about. So go check out that documentary in preparation for what we're going to be talking about next week. Hey, thanks for joining us on The Pursuit.
See ya.